G'day. It is lager season for us here in Australia, and any time's a good time for a lager season. I usually only brew one lager a year, and that is because there's so much work involved. But this year I've changed. I've had a winter of any IPAs all winter and hazies and pale ales, and I'm a little bit hopped out. I'll never give up the hops, but I'm a little bit hopped out. It's time to throw some lagers in. Last week, or nearly 2 weeks ago now, I did a starter lager, which I'm more or less using to build up yeast for the lager I'm brewing today. It was a simple grain bill. It was 4 kilo of Pilsner malt. I happened to use Gladfield because it was all I could get at the time, and I used 500 grams of Munich 1 just to add a little bit into it. The first brew, which I'll quickly show you, in the fermenter was bittered and flavoured with halito. It's just about to get kegged tomorrow. And the one today, I'm using Czech Saz. I am no chilling today. I wasn't going to no chill this batch, but it's very hot and sweaty here. You can probably tell it's 35 degrees. It's really windy. I've just cleaned the shed before brew day, and I've opened up the garage, and all the leaves from the street have blown in and trashed the place again. So it's going to be easier just to no chill this batch. It'll be interesting to see. I've no chilled a lot of beers, red IPAs, and IPAs, lots of pales, stouts, breakfast stout, all different beers, but I haven't no chilled a lager before. I guess this lager will fall into the Czech style pale lager. So it's going to be around 4.5 to 5% and about 40 IBUs. Again, because of the weather, the video is going to be a little bit shorter, and I'll just talk over a few things. I did use RO water for this batch. I did mess up a little on the RO water. I didn't realise I hardly had the tap turned on for the filter, and you really have got to have the tap turned on quite hard to get the filters to work properly. I did measure it with a TDS meter, and I had about, it was just under 20 parts per million in the water still, which isn't bad really. It'll be fine for this lager, but next time I'm going to make sure the water's turned on. I didn't realise till the end. I went to turn the tap off when I had enough water and went, oh, that was hardly on. I should have given it more pressure, and I'm pretty sure I can get that TDS down a lot lower than 20. I started the mash with 20 litres of water. The water was preheated to about 71 degrees. I mashed in with that same grain bill that I talked about before. It was 4 kilo of Gladfield Pilsner malt and 500 grams of Wyman Munich 1. And I did throw in a few handfuls of rice hulls. One of the reasons I'm using rice hulls today is I just wanted to make sure that flow was really good. I had to leave the mash for a little while to go and take my daughter to school. So I just wanted to make sure it had nice flow, wasn't going to back up. And when I mixed up the grain yesterday, I was contemplating doing a step mash, but I changed my mind this morning. I just ran out of time. So the rice hulls will really help with that. The grain was also wet conditioned. Just before I started mashing in, I'd also set it to 67 degrees Celsius. And after the 90-minute mash, I turned it up to 76 degrees for mash out. Mash out ended up being, including the ramp, about half an hour because I was busy. I then sparged with 15 litres of water at about 76 degrees. I did slightly oversparge. Right at the end, the postman turned up and I had to go and sign for a parcel. And I slightly oversparged, only by about 500 ml to a litre. I took a pre-boil reading and we're up by 1 point. With the same recipe I did 2 weeks ago, we're up by 2 points. But I did slightly oversparge, as I mentioned before. I might have to adjust the efficiency up a little bit for this recipe next time. Once we got to the boil, I added 60 grams of the Czech Saz for bittering. My Saz was only 2.9% alpha acids, that's why I had to add so much. With 15 minutes left to the boil, I added another 25 grams of Saz, some Werflock and some PVPP, and I forgot to add my yeast nutrient, which I meant to. At flame out, I added another 30 grams of Saz, and then I let it settle for 10 minutes. After that, I went straight into the cube. I took a reading. At the end, I was 2 points up. I came out at 1.048. And now we're in the cube cooling down. It's kind of worked out well. The lager I have in the fridge that I brewed 2 weeks ago tomorrow needs to be kegged, and I'm going to use the yeast from the bottom of it. So it'll give it another day of cold crash before I keg it. By that stage, my no-chill lager, my new one, will have cooled down, and I'll just put it in the Brewzilla and use the collection jar already full of yeast. You may have noticed these shirts I've got on. These are some of the new design that I've got for the Homebrew Network or Cellar Dwellers. It's just a design I came up with. Some people don't like words. I'll leave a link down at the t-shirt shop. You might have noticed there was another shirt I was wearing earlier this morning when I was mashing in. I'll give you a quick look at that. It's a Hophead's World Cloud. It's just all names of hops to spell out Hophead. Some of the hops came out a little bit small and hard to read, but that's okay. The effect's all there. Grain dust not included. As I said, this cube is going into the Brewzilla tomorrow once it's cooled down, and it's going to go straight onto the collection jar full of yeast from the first batch I did. There's a couple more lagers I'm going to do in this series. Probably do a rice lager in the style of a Asahi sort of thing, because I've been liking those on a hot day like it is today. And I'll probably do a decoction mash too. I thought about doing the decoction mash today, but it was way too hot out here in the shed. It's time for me to go and sit in front of a fan and cool down. A quick thank you to the patrons, the subscribers, and anyone that watches my videos. Please like, share, subscribe, click the bell, or just thank you very much for watching this anyway. And it's so hot in here, the rubber that holds my phone on the little clamp, the glue has loosened up in this heat, and it just came off and nearly fell on the floor. Anyway, I'll leave a link for the shirts. There is an Australian shop, there is a US shop, so it doesn't really matter where you live, you can get them if you like them. Thank you very much again. And I was going to do a grain and glass video, but you know, the lagers can take a little while to ferment, so I'll rather get this start of it out, and we'll see ya in the next one. Cheers. Lots of people have asked about this. I'll put a link down the bottom for those as well. Get them from Kegland. Oh, they actually have them at Bunnings, I've heard as well. And because it's so hot, and I have been really enjoying lagers lately, my mates will say I've changed. I'm just going to have one. My actual lager glass is dirty right now from last night. Look at that. Don't be shy of the Asahi. It's a good drop. I've also been doing, this video will never end. I've also been doing some research on the Budvar, and of course the old Pilsner, the most famous one in the world. And actually the recipe I'm brewing now is kind of based around this recipe for this. It's a bit hard. They'd kill me for no chilling and a few other things, but yeah, great beers if you can get them. These two you can easily get at Dan Murphy's. Cheers.